I was still wearing my father's funeral suit when they buried our well. The concrete truck reversed slowly across the yard I'd known since childhood. Gray slurry poured down into the mouth of something my great-grandfather had dug with his own raw hands in 1870. 150 years of pure water, gone in 4 minutes. And standing at the edge of our property, clipboard pressed to her chest like a weapon, watching it happen with a smile she didn't bother hiding, was Monica Halpern. She caught me staring and gave a small wave, like she was being neighborly. What Monica didn't know, what she couldn't have calculated in all her careful planning, was that the well she just destroyed wasn't simply a hole in the ground. It was the legal foundation holding her entire empire together, and she had just pulled it out with her own hands. My name is Caleb Dwire, 52 years old, never wanted to be anyone's fighter. All I wanted was to take care of my father and grow decent tomatoes. My family has held this 5-acre property in Millbrook Estates for 3 generations. My grandfather bought it in 1952 when it was nothing but open fields and possibility. The artesian well was already there, hand-dug by the original owner in the 1870s, delivering cold, clear water that beat anything the city could push through a pipe. The property has a character that takes decades to build. A white farmhouse with a wraparound porch that creaks in all the right places. My grandmother's vegetable garden, a stone chicken coop built during the Eisenhower administration, fruit trees that drop apples straight into your hand every September. Wind chimes my mother hung 30 years ago, still singing in the breeze. This place existed 4 decades before the HOA was even a thought in someone's meeting notes. When Millbrook Estates was developed around us in the 1980s, we were grandfathered in, protected, legally untouchable. Then my father had a stroke. I moved home to care for him. 2 years of medications and appointments and hospital rooms that always smelled like bad news. When he finally passed last month, he left me the land, the house, and everything tied to it. He also left me with his last words still sitting in my chest. Don't let them change what matters. I didn't fully understand what he meant until Monica showed up. Monica Halpern had been HOA president for 6 years. Perfectly styled hair, a string of pearls worth more than my truck. A white BMW she parked like she personally owned the street. An $800,000 house at the subdivision entrance with more bathrooms than bedrooms and a chandelier in the foyer screaming, "I have arrived." She measured lawn height with an actual ruler, issued citations if Halloween decorations were still up on November 3rd, wrote people up for unauthorized bird feeders. She treated HOA bylaws like sacred scripture, and she was Moses with a tape measure. The week after my father's funeral, while I was still figuring out how to exist inside a house full of 40 years of memories, Monica began her campaign. First violation notice, unsightly agricultural structures. Translation, my grandfather's chicken coop. Second violation, non-conforming landscaping. Translation, my grandmother's vegetable garden had become an eyesore overnight. Third violation, unauthorized water source, the well. The same well legally permitted longer than Monica had been breathing. Each violation carried a $500 fine, and tucked inside the last envelope, a handwritten note in Monica's perfect cursive. Time to join the 21st century, or move somewhere more appropriate. I should have guessed what was coming next. The concrete truck arrived on a Tuesday morning. I had just returned from the cemetery, still in my suit, still carrying the weight of the graveside service in my bones. I stood at the edge of the yard and watched gray slurry swallow 150 years of family history while Monica smiled from across the property line. That was the moment I understood. This was never about rules or aesthetics. This was about the land beneath my feet, and she wanted it. I started the way any reasonable person does, city code enforcement. The clerk confirmed my well was fully legal, grandfathered in, protected in every direction. "So what are you going to do about it?" I asked. He shrugged. "I can fill out a complaint form. Police station next." The officer barely looked up from his desk. "Sounds like a civil matter. Talk to an attorney." I walked out of that station with one clear thought. If the system wouldn't move fast enough, I would build something the system couldn't ignore. I started digging, not in the ground, in records. The county courthouse basement became my second home. Dust, microfilm machines, filing cabinets nobody had touched in decades. And that's where the pattern appeared. 3 families before me, same sequence every time. First was Diane. Forced to remove her solar panels for architectural disharmony, then Carlos buried under fines for parking his work truck in his own driveway, then Laura, whose vegetable garden was destroyed under the guise of aesthetic violations. All 3 eventually broke. All 3 sold under market value, every sale handled by the same firm, Monica's husband's real estate company. I reached out to all 3. We met at a diner off the highway where the coffee was strong and nobody was listening. Diane told us what the solar panel removal cost her in savings. Carlos described how the fines pushed him to the edge of bankruptcy. Laura's eyes filled with tears talking about the garden she lost after her husband passed. Then Laura said something quietly that stopped the whole table. Monica's husband handled my emergency sale, sold my home $40,000 under asking, and the buyer's agent was one of Monica's personal contacts. This wasn't pettiness, this was a machine, a system built to manufacture desperation and harvest the results, and I was her next target. My lawyer found the clause on a Thursday morning and called me before I'd finished my first cup of coffee. "Caleb," he said, "sit down. Page 47 of the original HOA charter, a water rights clause almost nobody would think to look for. When Millbrook Estates was developed, the city could only supply 80% of the water needed for 200 homes. Developers needed supplemental sources to make the project legally viable. They used my well. My artesian well was written into the binding water contract with the Regional Water Authority as a mandatory supplemental source for the entire subdivision. By destroying it, Monica hadn't just committed vandalism, she had violated a legally binding contract that underpinned every single home in Millbrook Estates. Without that water source, the subdivision technically had insufficient supply. The Water Authority could impose rationing, property values could collapse, 200 families could face consequences they had nothing to do with. And then my lawyer sent me the emails. 6 months earlier, Monica and her husband's firm, discussing the grandfather problem, planning to eliminate it, clearing the way for a future development expansion that required my property. She knew about the water clause. She had always known. The concrete truck wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. I sat at my kitchen table staring at those emails for a long time. Then I made a decision. I could destroy her with one call to the Water Authority, but that call would punish 200 innocent families who had done nothing wrong. My father's voice came back to me. "Don't let them change what matters." I put the phone down. I wanted justice, not collateral damage. The break came from inside Monica's own board. Tom, retired accountant, quiet man who had served on the HOA for years believing he was helping the community. When the investigation began reaching people around Monica, Tom showed up at my lawyer's office with shaking hands and a flash drive. "I thought she was strict," he said. "I didn't know she was this. The recordings were devastating." Monica directing the inspector on which violations to find. Monica explaining how to disguise embezzled funds. Monica admitting she had waited specifically until after my father's death to begin her campaign because she assumed grief would make me easy to break. My grief wasn't a coincidence. It was her opening move. The flash drive also confirmed what the forensic accountant had already begun uncovering. Nearly $200,000 in HOA funds funneled through Monica's husband's firm and returned to Monica as management compensation. Every time a homeowner broke and sold, the HOA mysteriously required urgent legal consultations. Always from the same firm, always paid without question. We had environmental violations, financial fraud, racketeering, witness testimony, and Monica's own voice laying out every piece of it in her own words. The trap was built. All we needed was the right moment to close it. The annual HOA meeting is legally required to be open to the public. Monica walked in like she was arriving at a gala. Perfect blazer, perfect pearls, perfectly brittle smile. The community center had never seen a crowd like that night. Over 100 residents packed into a space meant for 50. People lined the walls. Local news cameras set up quietly in the back. Monica seized the podium and launched into her speech. Misunderstandings, malicious attacks, outside agitators threatening community standards. Then the double doors opened. State environmental agents walked in, followed by county sheriff's deputies, followed by my lawyer. The lead agent stepped forward, Monica Halpern. "You are under arrest for environmental violations, fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering." Monica grabbed the microphone with both hands. "This is a setup. Caleb Dwire is trying to destroy this community." I walked slowly to the front of the room. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I did orchestrate something." I connected my phone to the PA system and played her own voice from Tom's recordings, her directing the inspector, her planning to eliminate the grandfather problem, her admitting she timed the attack to coincide with my father's death. The room went completely silent. Then Diane stood up, then Carlos, then Laura. One by one, people Monica had silenced for years found their feet and their voices. The stories poured out like a river breaking through a dam that had been holding too long. Monica struggled as deputies moved toward her. "I was protecting property values," she screamed. "No," I said quietly. "You were destroying people." The doors closed behind her, and for the first time in months, the room could breathe. Monica received 18 months federal prison, $250,000 in restitution, her assets frozen. Her husband lost his real estate license. The firm dissolved. The environmental crew came with jackhammers 3 weeks later. I stood and watched them break through the concrete cap Monica had poured over my family's well. When they finally got through, water surged up cold and clear and strong. I filled a cup from the hand pump and stood in the yard my grandfather bought in 1952. Tasted like it always had, like something worth fighting for. My father's last words finally made complete sense standing there in that yard. "Don't let them change what matters." I didn't, Dad. I didn't. If this story hit you somewhere real, subscribe. Drop a flag in the comments if you think Monica got exactly what she deserved. And if you are fighting your own battle right now, stay methodical, stay documented, and stay standing. Because the truth always outlasts the people trying to bury it.